Yo, this is John O'Brien, and this is the Money and Wealth podcast series, season 2, on the Black Effect Network, on iHeartRadio. And I wanted, in this episode, which is being recorded during Black Business Month, it's not well known that August is Black Business Month, and I want to commend iHeart and Black Effect Network for focusing on it. I wanted to address the obvious, and I also owe you an apology. As an entrepreneur and a businessman, I think I've taken some things for granted, and many others have taken it for granted. I think we take for granted that people open the Wall Street Journal and know what's being said in it. These phrases, these euphemisms, what's the SEC? What's the FDIC? What's a SPAC? What's a leverage buyout? And so I've tried to break down some of these myths. If you go to season 1, I go through a lot of the basics, right? About what does this mean and what does that mean? And you're going to start seeing me go from industry to industry and break this down. But one thing I've never broken down, and it just dawned on me that I needed to do this, was I never really broken down how to start a business, like the basics. And one of the reasons this became so powerfully important was recently I was having a discussion with somebody I love and care for and respect, who is highly intelligent. And we had an actual debate about what they thought they were doing in building a business. And it took me a while to understand that they didn't understand what I was saying. And it was my fault. I had never explained, no one's ever explained it to even successful Black people, educated Black people, what these terms are again. And so this individual is incredibly smart, one of the most smartest people I know, had a history of running a really professional services contract enterprise where they got contracts for their talent, but they weren't on a payroll with someone. They were effectively a self-employment project. They had no employees. They, in most cases, had no contractors. It might be episodic from time to again when there was an event or something. They had no health insurance responsibilities. They had no payroll responsibilities. They had no property tax responsibilities. They had no balance sheet and income statement other than making sure their inflow exceeded their outflow. They had a contract with, in many cases, a corporation or government to provide a service. And the presumption was that's a business. Well, it is a form of business, but that's not building a business that you can sell, right? And the whole point of building a business, please hear me, is to monetize it, create value, and to have a liquidity event, to sell it, right? Now, if somebody's going to say, no, John, Walmart never sold, or Amazon never sold, or Microsoft, Bill Gates never sold, or Meta, Facebook never sold. They'll come up with these examples. But the very fact that those companies have gone public means that they sell every day. They sold when they went public. The founder got, or founders or founding family got a check, probably a big one. Probably they got a big one. And they're still getting checks, their families, through dividend payments, etc. They still own shares. But the public is buying and selling that company every day based on its perception of its continuing success. So whether you're a small business and it's private equity, literally your cousin, your father, your friend, or a firm that's in the private equity business giving you an investment, private equity, or it's the public equity market going public, right? The whole point is they're backing this enterprise to grow it so that the leader of the enterprise can sell it so everybody wins, right? right? Now, you can't do that. You make money during the day, you build wealth in your sleep. In order to do that, you need compounding, you need employees, you need infrastructure, you need real estate, you need locations, you need something other than you running around with a personal service contract. So I'm not today talking about what most black businesses are comprised of. 95% plus of all black businesses are effectively self-employment projects. They have no employees. And so when you wonder why we are not building wealth, and I'm also going to break down in a separate podcast how to own and buy a home. That's another presumption I think we make. That's incorrect. We should not assume people know the hows here or the whys or the whats. So I'm breaking this down. And by the way, being a small business owner, which is incredibly important, is very different from being an entrepreneur. They're first cousins, but they're different. And I go through that also in season 1. This is season 2 of Money and Wealth. So tell all your friends to download Money and Wealth and go back to season 1. I'm giving you an entire university, a library, a ministry of finance, if you will, in free enterprise and entrepreneurship, in capitalism even, in bite-sized chunks. So now, before I get into how do you start a business, whether it's a self-employment project, a personal services contract, fulfillment firm of one, or whether it's a business that has scale, employees, and infrastructure, I'm going to walk you through literally the steps of taking your dream and making it real, okay? Because that should not be presumed that people know how to do that. And that doesn't mean that somebody's unintelligent because they don't know how to do that. It means no one's taught you. It's what you don't know that's killing you, but you think you know. By the way, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner, and I used to be a small business owner. I grew a small business into a boutique business into a reasonably sized business. I would think it's a big business because one of my businesses I sold for $120 million. Maybe it's a mid-sized business by big boy standards. And then one of my enterprises is a large enterprise because that budget is, north of $65 million a year. Okay. So I have experience from the smallest to the largest, but an entrepreneur is somebody who creates something from whole cloth, whereas a businessman or businesswoman takes an existing business plan and scales it and operationalizes it. So a businessman, businesswoman is taking basically an existing concept, a dentist's office, a chiropractor office, a healthcare office, whatever, right? A service, and making that thing work. Franchise businesses are good examples of existing business plans. An entrepreneur like me is nuts and creating new ideas from nothing and backing them with, in my case, my own and others' private equity. Okay, and so in some cases, I'm my own venture capital firm, if you will, for myself. At least that's what I have been. So let me now give you first a brief history of business and why this is relevant to you, particularly during Black Business Month. Business has always been one of the most powerful ways to build wealth and independence in America and around the world. I'm thinking about my friend, my brother Strive Masiyiwa, who is the Bill Gates of Africa, who's a billionaire and an up-from-nothing entrepreneur from Zimbabwe. So successful in Zimbabwe, the government is afraid, I think, that he wants to run for political office there. So he can't even go back to his own country, not because he's a criminal, but because he's so successful. Folks are intimidated by him. But he is doing fiber optic cables throughout the African continent. He was one of the first to bring cell phones to the African continent. I believe he was the first cell phone provider in Nigeria. And he runs a multiplicity of businesses there and is enormously successful. You find your hero, your shero on whatever continent you live on and study them, okay? So this is a way for independence. All money is freedom, right? And you cannot have freedom without self-determination, and you need to understand financial literacy. Hello, what we're talking about here. Financial literacy is a civil rights issue of this generation, why I founded Operation Hope, and why I want you to go get financial coaching and counseling, why I've raised and deployed $50 million plus a year in money used for scholarships, for coaching, is building economic infrastructure, 1,500 offices across the country for you to plug into. The 1 Million Black Business Initiative, 1MBB as an example, is a resource for you to plug into in partnership in that example with Shopify, okay? In early America, immigrants, settlers, and freedmen alike often turned to business when other doors were closed. owning a shop, a farm, or a trade gave families not just income, but dignity and independence. For Black Americans, business was often the only path. After slavery, many could not access land ownership or fair wages. We literally worked for free. That was sort of the whole point of slavery. It was bad capitalism. It wasn't personal. It became personal later on, but it didn't start out as personal. It started out as just bad capitalism, free labor. So they built their own, when they could not get that opportunity from others, their own barbershops, beauty salons, insurance companies, newspapers, and banks. And because no one else would serve our community, people didn't want to cut our hair, so we had to cut our own hair. They didn't want to give us medical services. We had to do that for ourselves. That closed market, that segregated market, created wealth for those who served with excellence the Black community in that example, because no one else would serve them. And so people who did well were looking for quality services, and smart Black businessmen and women fulfilled that. And so thus you had Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is cited often, which became a symbol of this power. And there are other places, by the way, places in the Carolinas and others, and of course Harlem later on. But the entire communities, one in South Central, by the way, that was very impressive and little well known on Central Avenue. Entire communities built on ownership that happened to be Black. Globally, the story is the same. From Jewish merchants in Europe, by the way, it was illegal for Jews to own land in Europe. They were discriminated against. It ran all around the world for most of 6,000 years. So they had to learn finance and financial literacy because they couldn't own land. So they just figured if they financed the land and understood how to, banking was not a dignified business back then, investment banking less so, being a merchant banker even less so. These folks took these businesses that nobody else wanted and became experts at that through financial literacy, and through finance controlled land and businesses. And it's one of the great success stories in the world for a group that was and continue, unfortunately, to be hunted around the world and discriminated against, but still they rose. And I commend them for that. Goldman Sachs, by the way, did you know that half of all Jews are dark? It's a whole other conversation for another time. That's literally true. Goldman Sachs was a guy named Goldman and a guy named Sachs who could not get a job on Wall Street. No one would hire them. So they literally just went door to door selling financial services and built that up slow by slow, little by little. And that became, well, Goldman Sachs, the firm you know of today as an institution. Every big business was once a small one. So you have the example of Jewish merchants in Europe. By the way, Blacks and Jews share a shared history, even a shared DNA going back 6,000 years. I will do a separate podcast just on the history of business and trade and commerce and capitalism. So come back for that and how it crosses with culture, and how some folks want us to all be in a constant argument with each other. So you had that example. You had Indian traders in East Africa. It has to be noted that bad capitalism, I promote good capitalism. Bad capitalism is where I benefit and you pay a price for it. Good capitalism is where I benefit and you benefit more. In bad capitalism, slavery, by the way, wasn't just white European slave traders. It was Indian slave traders from India, the East India Company, I believe it was. There were Asian slave traders. There were, believe it or not, African folks who not slave traded from the coast, but who captured folks in other tribes in the central part of Africa and traded them monetarily. They didn't like each other. These are warring tribes. Think about gangs today. And they didn't realize they were trading them in slavery, but because no one had gone beyond the coast, really. So Europeans, unfortunately, were best at a horrible business model. But bad capitalism is something No different than our communities today. You see everybody engaging in bad capitalism. I want to see more good capitalism, and that's what this podcast is about. The color's green, by the way. Not white, black, or red, or blue. It's green. I want everybody to be able to get your share of it so you can build some wealth and build some independence and some freedom so you can say what you like and do as you please and empower who you choose. So, again, you had these entire communities that were built up, and these examples from, again, Jewish merchants in Europe, Indian traders in East Africa, Chinese family businesses across Southeast Asia. Business ownership has been the ladder out of poverty into the middle class and often into lasting generational wealth. The reason is simple. A job gives you a paycheck, but a business gives you freedom, a real business. It can scale, which is what I've been discussing so far in this podcast. It can be passed down. It creates assets, not just income. Again, you make money during the day, you build wealth in your sleep. That's why today, when we talk about financial literacy, wealth building, and independence, we can't leave business out. Starting a business, even a small one, is still one of the most proven ways to move from surviving to thriving to winning to controlling your narrative. And in my case, we have 400 employees employing others and empowering others. So now let's get into the substance of this. So every big business started small. Amazon started with books in a garage. For You, By You, Fubu started with $40 and a sewing machine. The brother who founded that just called me, great guy. Operation Hope started with a man with a mission, that's me. You don't need $1 million, a fancy office, or even investors, right? You just need clarity, courage, and the first step. I never started with business loans, by the way. I have some, I have lines of credit and things like that, facilitations for which is facilitating cash flow. Payment hasn't come in yet, so I have a credit line that pays the bills until the payments from a growing business comes in. Yeah, and I had one facility, a couple $100 million facility for a business that I had recapitalized with some other partners. That was $200 million, the largest credit facility that was done for a person of color for more than a couple decades, so it said Black Enterprise. And that was non-recourse debt, meaning there was no personal guarantee. But when I started businesses, I did not start businesses with loans. I did have credit cards and things like that, but I didn't get like a proper loan. I didn't grow it based on debt. I grew it based on hustle. So the step one is the idea in the mindset. So Damon John, who I just cited, Fubu's founder, who I just traded messages with this weekend, really great guy. He started selling hats he made with a $40 budget. The hustle you have in your neighborhood can become your blueprint for entrepreneurship or small business. Don't wait for the perfect idea. Start where you are with what you know. Search and research the Damon John story. It's quite inspiring. He's still growing and building businesses to this day. Step number 2, research and validation. So step number 1 was the idea and the mindset, okay? And the Bible says where there is no vision, the people perish. And I love that. I have a whole thing I do for myself. I have a graph that that created, that's vision, mission, purpose, passion, strategy, plan, execution of the plan, tactics, to-dos, to-dones, assessment, evaluation, reimagination based on the assessment of what just happened and whether it needs to be improved or not, like a software upgrade, reset, refine the business plan, wake up the next day, and execute on a refined business plan. So you should never just be getting up and doing what you did yesterday. You should always be trying to improve yourself. You should be in a constant state of software upgrades, active software upgrades. When you got the phone, if you have an iPhone, like I do, when you got the phone, my phone is a 16 Pro, within a couple weeks, iPhone was pushing to you a software upgrade of 16.1, 16.5. I'm now at 18 something, I believe, software series. Even though the phone is a 16 Pro, iPhone realizes there is no perfect, and so they don't wait for something's perfect. Get it out there in the marketplace, get people to buy into it, and keep upgrading your software as you go. And so the current software is 18.6.2, 18.6.2. All right, not 18, 18.6.2. What's your personal software upgrade, and are you keeping track of it? Are you constantly obsessed with Kaizen, as they say in Japan, constantly improving? I am. I'm obsessed with knowledge, and I'm nosy. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You listen twice as much as you talk. I'm nosy. I want to know everything about everything, just like my friend Quincy Jones, the late Quincy Jones, shared with me one of his gifts. So all of my businesses started with being nosy, doing research, having a vision, not being emotional, being passionate and purposeful. Whenever you make an emotional decision, it's going to be a bad one. So don't make a business. Business is not personal, okay? Capitalism is a gladiator sport. I want you to take the emotions out of it. Yes, passion is going to be necessary, but take the emotions out of it. Step number 2, research and validation. A food prep service. One woman began asking church members if they pay $10 or $15 for home cooked meals. She had 15 orders the first week and grew from there. Now, if you ask 10 or 20 real people, not just family, if they would actually pay for what you're offering, and then if they say yes, you might have a business. But a business, an innovation, an idea without a paying customer next to it is not a business. That's my friend Jim Clifton of Gallup's quote. Okay, an innovation or a cool idea without a paying customer next to it is not a business. A lot of people running around, I see, with business cards and leased Mercedes and a leased office space and nice clothes and going to lunches and dinners, and again, the business card says CEO on it, and they're going to cocktail receptions, and they make some phone calls and have some meetings, and they have a PowerPoint presentation, and they think that that's business. And that's not. That's busyness. That's not business. That's busyness. You got to be the chief hustle officer, chief get it done officer, chief. I get up in the morning and stay up late at night, and I outwork you, outrun you, and out hustle you, officer. Right? An entrepreneur works 18 hours a day to keep from getting a job. So, and there's the last one paid and the last one to walk out and turn the lights off. I mean, I used to sleep in my office, quite literally. The sheriff's department, when I lived in Los Angeles while I worked in Los Angeles and lived in Malibu, California, the sheriff's department, the LA County Sheriff's Department, they told me one day when they saw me in the convenience store, A&P, Mini Market, where I got gas on my way home. When I finally finished my day of work and drove home, which is often 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, the sheriff saw me one day go in the A&P Mini Market, and they said, "Oh, there's the sleeper." I'm like, "Excuse me?" Yeah, we call you the sleeper. What does that mean? Because you're the guy who pulls his car off the side of the road. It is very dangerous to do this, and you go to sleep in your car, and we come and check on you. I'd be so tired from working all day and doing meetings all night, and then sometimes I wouldn't take a nap in my office. I'd get in my car and I'd drive home. I wouldn't sleep in my office overnight. I'd want to, because I'm vain, I want to go home and take a shower and put on a fresh set of clothes. I drive from West Los Angeles, where my office was, at the Westwood Gateway Complex at Little Santa Monica and Sepulveda Boulevard. The building is still there. I was on the 8th floor. Bryant Group Companies was where we were located. I drive from there down the 405 freeway to the Santa Monica Freeway, up PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, to Malibu, and on the halfway there I'd get exhausted and have to pull off the side of the road. You start seeing three lanes when there's only 2, and you remember you roll down the window and you have to wet your finger and put it on your eyelids. It's with some saliva on your eyelids, and then open the window and put your head outside the window. That was me. All right, don't laugh. You know you did that. You know you've done that. I just did it coming home from my office. You might have been coming home from a club. Who knows? But and I was completely sober. Like no, I don't do drugs. I don't drink. So those are not my things. But I worked. I was a workaholic. I wasn't an alcoholic. I worked aholic. I was a passionaholic. Anyway, the minute these sheriff's officers said they knew me by reputation, that I was a sleeper. I knew I had to change some things. That either a robber was going to kill me or I was going to kill myself by working myself to death. So I'd need some more balance. But that is what an entrepreneur. That's an example of an entrepreneur's commitment. I didn't get a paycheck back then. Everybody got paid but me. I was fueled by my vision and my passion and my nonstop hustle. And again, an entrepreneur or small business owner takes no for vitamins. Okay, let's now get into number 3, business structure and legal basis, right? And I go through details of this in another podcast when I discuss the different legal structures for starting a business. So please go there and check that out. Cleaning service founder started with just supplies, but an LLC, a limited liability corporation, gave her contracts with offices and property managers. So filing an LLC turned her hustle into a business others could trust. My point is, the difference between somebody with a good idea and good hustle and a proper businessman or businesswoman is paperwork. Proper paperwork. I want you to get obsessed with the details, right? I want you to get obsessed with your accountant. Get obsessed with to figure out what an income statement is and a balance sheet. I remember we had this young man who wanted to come in and start a business at Operation Hope, and we were helping him. He asked for help. He used to be a drug dealer, to be really blunt. And he was trying to transition his life, and I commended him for that and wanted to help him with this transition. And he had already paid money to lease a restaurant location and had already bought a burner for the restaurant. So he was already all in. He leased the facility, had bought some of the equipment, stoves, burners, etc. And then I asked him, okay, so tell me about your balance sheet. And he's like, what's that? I was like, excuse me? Like he had the hustle, but no one told him the business basics, right? So you need, if you're going to be a proper business person, you need an accountant. You need at least access to a lawyer. You need somebody to review your contracts. You can use artificial intelligence, by the way, in the short term, but don't just rely on AI. You can have AI for 80% of the work and get a lawyer to sign off on what AI is telling you to make sure it's tight and right. You need an accountant. You need a bookkeeper or accountant and or a bookkeeper. You at some point you need a controller, somebody to run the money with your oversight inside the business at some point. I have a chief financial officer. I've audited financial statements. That's people can trust my businesses because I've audited financial statements. Just like this lady, this LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, gave her respectability because it gave her structure, paperwork, independently reviewed that people can trust. You really need to have your books and records and a budget in place for your business. Otherwise, again, it's not a business, it's busyness. You need to make boring sexy. Like you need to have, and if your accountant's trying to hang out with you at the club or at social events, you need to get a new accountant, right? You don't want people who want to hang out with you. You want people who want you to be set up. They don't want to hang out. Set up properly, I meant. So a limited liability corporation is cheap and easy and quick. And even if you want to do business with your family members, you should have a limited liability corporation and everybody should sign the dotted line, because when things get messy, when things don't go well, there's 2 times when mess happens in a business. When things go incredibly well, it changes. Money out of the blue changes people, particularly it's a lot of money. And unfortunately, I've seen it in my own situation. People I thought I knew, I realized I didn't know at all when money showed up and they think they should have a piece of it, even though I made it. sense of entitlement, but also when things go badly, folks get amnesia. I didn't say that. I didn't do that. I didn't guarantee that. I didn't promise that. Or when you loan somebody some money, they get amnesia. They don't want to pay it back, right? But they certainly want some of the profit. So you just want to have this all documented. So it's again, as a friend of mine told me, she likes math because it doesn't have an opinion, right? And so I want you to just be non-emotional and mathematical and business-like and have your paperwork in place, so you don't have to have these petty arguments with anybody or disagreements. Step 4, plan and money. A mobile car wash entrepreneur started with buckets, soap, rags, and under $300 investment. By the way, so did I. This is also my example. I started 100 business ideas between age 20, from age 10 to age 20. Most of them failed spectacularly. Let me give you a news flash, by the way. Don't be embarrassed. Get embarrassment out of your dictionary, right? All a failure is an outcome. It's just an outcome to an experiment. It's not a defining anything about you. It's just this thing didn't work. Take no for vitamins, and understand this. Success has 1,000 mothers, and failure is a bastard child. Like, no one claims the failure, but no one remembers it either. Once you succeed, everybody wants to own that, right? So just don't obsess about your failures. It's just the outcome to an experiment. It's just a moment in time. Keep it moving. It's hard to hit a moving target. Just keep it moving. And so this mobile detailing business, clearly it didn't work out. I would be still doing it. But it was something I did at a moment. And it's something you can do to start out. It's a whole bunch of stuff. You can read my different books I go through, Up From Nothing and The Memo. These different books I explain financial literacy for all. Some of the books the businesses that I started. So the key is that this person kept their plan simple. Wash 10 cars per weekend, charge $25 each, earn $250 extra cash flow. Eventually, this grew into a mobile detailing business with employees. Like, don't overcomplicate it. It's just that simple. There's no flossing, you notice, in any of this, right? Number 5, branding and presence. So, Etsy jewelry seller invested in a $12 domain name. Domain name is what you select as, Joe's Jewelry Company is what uses your online presence. It's real estate on the internet. Okay, so domain name, a $20 logo on a logo production service, right? And you can probably do that on AI now for free, and free Instagram. Customers found her online, not in a store. Shopify is where I recommend, by the way, our partner for 1MBB. A simple professional look built instant credibility, and voila, she had a business. And she's on the platform of Etsy, which is trusted and respected, and she had her business and documentation properly done because, well, in this example, she went through Operation Hope. Step 6, sales and marketing, right? So tutor turned a small business owner. They posted free math tips on TikTok, built trust, then offered $25 an hour tutoring lessons. Within months, had 20 clients, right? Your first customers will often come from your network, people you know. Relationship capital is what I call it. Then you can expand with digital tools from there. Again, keep this simple. Number 7, operations and customer service. A barber working from home, all right? My barber is Keith Williams, who's a mobile barber. Used to have a shop. Now he's a full-time firefighter, but he also does a part-time business. I'm one of his clients, and I pay him a premium to come to my house, and he's so dependable, I wouldn't go with anybody else. So focusing on showing up on time, clean cuts, clean proper hygiene, clean equipment, consistent pricing, right? Never try to gouge your clients. They need consistency, and they need to believe they're getting a value. And in this example, his clients referred others because of his utter professionalism. So consistency is a superpower in business. Please write that down. Consistency is a superpower in business. People will pay for what they can count on. Now, some people are now listening to this and saying, what's the price that I am now stopping at step seven before I go to step 8. Some people are saying, well, what's the right price I should set my product for, and how do I know what the right price is, and all that, and I don't want to overcharge somebody. Don't worry about overcharging somebody. The market will tell you when enough is enough. When you set a price and people throw their nose up and start rolling their eyes at you and go, girl, you got your mind, okay, you know you've charged too much. Back it down a little. Again, do some test discussions. But again, you're not taking advantage of people. You're selling a product or service which alleviates a pain, creates a solution. All capitalism is solving problems. Let me tell you what a cap table is. A capitalism table is, right? Not a cap table. A capitalism table is in negotiations. So you feel better about getting to the right price, and so you don't feel like you're gorging people or taking advantage of people or they're taking advantage of you. Let me explain this to you. So on the one side of the table, in this negotiating table, is the capitalist, the producer of the product. And the other side of the table is the consumer, the buyer of the product. Typically, black people are unfortunately just the consumers. The capitalist's job, please hear me, the business owner's job is to extract as much money as they can in negotiations from the person sitting at the table on the consumer side, while giving them the least value in return. That's the capitalist, the business owner, the entrepreneur's job. They've got a product or service, something they've created, something they control, something they're offering. Their job is to get the most value out of that they can from a paying customer, while giving the least value in return so they can earn the biggest profit. Now, somebody's sitting there going, oh, John, that's so ruthless. That's horrible. No, it's just business. But here's the second part of this story. On the other side of this is the consumer. Guess what their job is? The consumer's job is to pay the least amount that they can from this capitalist producer in negotiations, while extracting the most value from that capitalist in return. Now, is that person predatory? Is that person unfair? And here's what happens in most good negotiations, right? Everybody leaves that table slightly annoyed. That's a great negotiation. Everybody leaves the negotiating table slightly annoyed because nobody got everything they wanted. So in Africa and developing countries, in Latin America and Asia, in India for sure, trying to think if I missed someplace, in the back country of Australia, I'm sure you'll tell me if I Caribbean, I missed in maybe Eastern Europe. Small shop owners, all they do is haggle over prices. They negotiate. They literally think about when you're someplace traveling and you're haggling over prices with some merchant. And it's sport for them. It's like they got the thing down to a science. And they're trying to figure out what the price, pain, promise, value, proposition, sweet spot is with the customer. When you go to Walmart or you go to Amazon or wherever it is you shop, the price is already predetermined. The market researchers have already figured out, here's a brush, it solves a problem, a nappy hair, or kinky hair, whatever. Here's a brush, a comb, whatever, a toothbrush. And here's what the market has already said it's going to pay for that. So that the price is printed on isn't this fascinating? Printed on the product, or now you have a barcode. But it already knows that, okay, the average person is willing to pay this because the promise, the value is much more than the pain of the cost. And so the transaction happens. But in developing countries, it's an active negotiation. Now, I'll give you a funny little story. I'm doing a deal, which I can't talk about at the moment, but one of the major investors in this deal is a very big financial institution, very sophisticated, like a huge, huge institution. And my partners were negotiating with them after I introduced them on the rates of return on this investment. And it got back to me that my new partners in this new business were just mortified. They thought they'd offended the new investors, and they really thought this deal was done. Like this was going to fall apart. We're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars, and more importantly, a really important partner and friend of mine. And they're like, John, we don't want to offend you. We didn't want to offend them, but we can't do what they're saying. And what they're saying is around the edge of, lunacy, whatever. And so I said, slow down. I know these people. Let me call, right? But I was prepared. I was prepared for this all to fall apart. So I called, well, I emailed first, hey, can I talk to you? Called my friend, got him on the phone, and I explained I explained the situation very delicately, diplomatically. This is one or two times I can remember where I'm glad I didn't pop off. I'm glad I listened before I decided to pop off, and I'm glad I didn't get emotional about this because I would have been wrong and I would have destroyed a great business. So the guy listened to me and he laughed. I said, "What? Why are you laughing?" He said, "John, we were just playing with him." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, just negotiation. Like we're just messing with him. Like we're just trying to figure out what we can get." I mean, of course we're committed. We just we're in. We just want to figure out how much we can get out of them to our advantage. I mean, it's business and sport. These guys were just bored. This is what they do. Like I said, come on, you should be ashamed of yourself. You petrified these folks. I went back and patched it up, got out of the way, and they finished negotiating their deal. And it wasn't personal, right? And these were rich people on both sides of this negotiation, right? There's another time that I almost screwed a big business deal up. I had asked the founder of Shopify, I can tell this story because I've said it publicly before, Toby Lutke, great guy, second richest man, I believe, in Canada, really great guy, good friend. I had asked him after George Floyd's murder, I had spoken for him for free, doing town hall, relationship capital. Sometimes what you get is less important than what you give. In fact, I've always felt that giving is more important than getting. In fact, whatever goes around comes around. If you give, you tend to get. And if you're just focusing on getting, you don't get anything except showing the door at some point because you're transactional. You're a taker. Okay. So at the end of this presentation by one of the wealthiest men in the world, he realized I did this for free. I just gave a town hall to his employees about what happened with George Floyd's murder, and he really appreciated that. This was, of course, 2020. And he's like, what can I do to be helpful to, Black America? I'm like, well, I don't know, help me create a million new Black businesses in America. And he's like, send me something on that. So I said, okay. So I hung up the phone and typed up something. Here's a business truth. Here's a golden rule. Never let the perfect be the death of the good. Don't let the perfect be the death of the good. I didn't wait 3 months, 3 weeks to write a proposal, no, I just knocked it out quickly, and it was good enough, and sent it to him before he forgot about me and started focusing on something else. Don't let the perfect be the death of the good. Don't navel gaze. Don't admire the problem forever, right? Get to it, right? If there's an end to the story, can we please start there? So anyway, I sent this proposal to him, heard nothing. Days go by, a week goes by, almost 2 weeks. So I sent him an email. Hey, Toby, dear Toby, I really appreciated the time. I enjoyed our time together in the town hall. Appreciate you asking what you can do to help. You probably got busy, distracted running a global business. Thank you so much for even offering and being interested in trying to help Black America to come up from self-determination. I realized you didn't get back to me, and you probably just didn't, was uncomfortable. You want to be uncomfortable, so you didn't want to tell me no. Don't worry about it. We'll do something down the road. But thanks for being considerate and caring. Dear, signed, John Bryant. Sent the note by email. He responds and says, John, what are you talking about? I said, yes. Excuse me? Yeah, I said, yes. I said, we'd do it. Well, it was in my spam folder. Always check your spam folder. His commitment, 2 lines, was in my spam folder. Then I started working with his right arm, Toby. I call him Toby I. There's Toby Y, Toby, who now is on the board of Shopify, a great guy. And Harley Finkelstein, who's the president of Shopify, and all these heroes and sheroes at Shopify, who I now count as friends, and who are great people, helped me to develop and Kaz is also another guy, great guy there, helped me develop a $130 million business on that 2-line email from Toby. And then they came back and committed another $60 million last December because it was going so well. We've created, nurtured, supported, advanced through the 1 Million Black Business Initiative, 450,000 Black businesses since George Floyd's murder, which there's only 3.2 million Black businesses in America, so that's about 12% of all Black businesses, which is fantastic. And why they're doing this is they're doing it out of some charity or some goodwill or some crazy, no, they're doing it because it's good business, right? They've got 2-3% of black shops had black shops on the Shopify platform, and they want 10% of black shops. They want to grow their platform. They see this as a legitimate, profitable, emerging market, and they can do well and do good at the same time. Good capitalism. That's exactly what we want, isn't it? We don't want charity. We don't want handouts, right? We want hand ups, right? So there's an example of, I'm glad, number two, I didn't pop off and get emotional and go, you're a racist and you don't want to do anything in the first place and I'm just wasting my time. And I mean, I would have just tore my whole rear end. I'm glad I shut up and just was gracious and remembered how my mother raised me and said thank you to the man for being considerate. Now we're dear friends, by the way. And Harley's on my board, and Kaz and I work all together all the time, and me and Toby Y are good friends, and Toby and I race cars together. We will be racing cars together, and 1MBB is a great partnership with Shopify and Operation Hope, and we're helping a lot of people and doing well and doing good. I'm fulfilling my mission, and they're getting a good feeling for what they're doing, but they're also getting the prospect of future customers because 5 to 10% of all these Shopify candidates who get a free account become long-term customers of Shopify. Isn't that a win-win situation? In fact, at InvestFest, we just gave $25,000 1MBB scholarship packages, which includes legal support, accounting support with professionals for a couple hours, marketing support, technical support, Shopify account for free. So I think it's $1 a month for 6 months, basically for free. And if you get your first sale, those finance your second one, by the way. Assistance with setting up your free domain name, free website, payment systems, delivery systems, a business plan, financial coaching from Operation Hope. This is stuff I can remember at the moment. It's a complete package worth $25,000, a program grant. We designed 4 of those. We allocated 4 of those to Earn Your Leisure at their InvestFest recently, and people went wild, and it was wonderful to be able to do that for folks who wanted a shot at self-determination. But all that came from me making sure I read my spam folder. Back to how to start a business. Step number 8. So we just covered operations and customer service. Step number 8, growth and scaling, right? So the lawn care business, start with a lawnmower. Hello, a used lawnmower. Don't go buy a new one from, well, if you can, find a used lawnmower. Go on one of these online marketplaces and find a used, dependable lawnmower. You can go buy one if you want to for at Home Depot or wherever for that's new. Get a warranty on it if you do that. But you can start with a used lawnmower. After 6 months, reinvest the reinvested profits into a second mower. You can hire a teenager in the neighborhood, and within 2 years, you have 5 on your crew. Right? You see, that's compounding, right? Don't chase flash. Scale what works. Reinvest profits. Build and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Keep compounding. All right. So with real people, they all started small and they built big. Your idea doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be started. One step at a time turns a dream into a business. Dr. Dorothy Height once told me, John, I like you because you're a dreamer with a shovel in your hands. Here's my challenge to you. Write down one business idea today and take one action this week. Just those 2 things. Whether it's registering the name, calling 10 people, or setting up a free website, or calling Operation Hope and signing up to 1MBB and or Hope Financial Coaching and Counseling or a smart business program. Just start somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to give you now a peek into 10 businesses that you can start for under $1,000. Again, I'm really trying to make this really practical for you and getting it at a level where you can pick it up no matter who you are, where you are, whether you're full-time, part-time. You have a job, by the way. Don't go quitting your job, start a business, being all this emotional stuff. Again, don't give up your old shoes. You get some new ones and make sure the new shoes fit. Let your 9 to 5 if you're lucky to have a great job, let your 9 to 5, which has health insurance and benefits and all that stuff, let your 9 to 5 job finance your 5 to 9 dream. Write that down. Okay. Businesses you can start for under $1,000. Examples. Here's some AI leverage future focused businesses. Content plus AI micro agency. Use ChatGPT, which I'm the co-chair of the AI Ethics Council with my buddy Sam Altman, who's the CEO of ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT mostly. I love it. Use ChatGPT, Canva, and CapCut to help small businesses create social media posts, captions, and videos. Startup costs, $200. Laptop, software, subscriptions. AI enhances productivity, but human creativity plus local relationships make this valuable. You're not going to be put out of business, by the way, by AI. You're going to be put out of business by somebody who can run AI, out of business or out of your job. That's another podcast for another day. I hope to do a whole series on AI. Number 2, AI resume and career coaching services. Help job seekers use AI tools to rewrite resumes, cover letters, and prep with mock interview bots. Startup costs, basically free, just marketing and your time. AI is a tool, but people still want human guidance and encouragement. This is a really good business. That one's like almost anybody can do that. Everybody, and it's going to be so needed. People are willing to accept AI. They really have no clue what it is, right? As my friend Van Jones would say, 99% of black folks don't know a thing about AI, but 99% of white folks don't know a thing about AI either. It's equal opportunity discrimination. We're all a little bit lost, but the curious and the nosy and those who execute on that nosiness win. Number 3, e-commerce microstore with AI marketing. Start a drop shipping shop business or Etsy digital production or product store. Use AI to design product descriptions, logos, and ads. Startup costs, about $500 for samples, website, and marketing. Number 4, AI-powered tutoring, math, writing, ESL, coding. Parents want tutors, but you can pair your teaching with AI practice worksheets and quizzes. By the way, just if you're in the hood, go to the suburbs, right? Just find folks who go to places where there's a 700 credit score community, an upwardly mobile community. Not saying that doesn't exist where you live, by the way. I'm just saying this is the easy thing for you to do. Go someplace where people have stable families, high credit scores, jobs, careers, but don't have a lot of time. But they want the excellence for their kids and become a tutor for their kids. Startup costs, virtually zero, Zoom marketing, etc. You can do this virtually. That's also another great business. Number 5, AI-driven research and data assistance for local businesses. Example, help a local realtor or contractor pull neighborhood trends, right? Market reports and customer insights with AI tools. Startup costs, $300, just marketing yourself, basically. AI-resistant immune trades and services, okay? These are things that you can do that AI won't put you out of business doing in 3 to 5 years. Mobile car detailing and car wash, I mentioned that earlier. AI cannot wash a car, or at least not yet. Robots aren't here yet. Always in demand, hard to automate, and it's scalable. Startup costs, as I said earlier, about $500 for supplies. 7, residential cleaning services. I love this business. AI can schedule, but can't scrub toilets. It is immune to automation. Okay. Starter costs, $200 for supplies. My mother did this business, by the way, back in growing up in Compton. She was a janitor, right? She had a little janitorial business, and then she was a contract janitor for the school I grew up in. I like, come on, Mom, I see you at home. Why are you here? She when she got laid off from McDonnell Douglas Aircraft between contracts, she was a fabricator for seats in airplanes, seats I fly on today, by the way. When she got laid off because she was between contracts, she wouldn't go and get on welfare. She'd go to my school and find out whatever job was available, and she'd take it because she wanted to be near me. Drove me nuts, but my God, I'm so thankful my mother loved me into excellence. She was a security guard. She was a janitor. She was like, Mom, you get a different uniform every week. She's like, yeah, but I'm still your mother. I'm gonna kick your butt. You mess up. Can you imagine? You can't get away from your mom. I just love my mother. She told me she loved me every day. Make sure you tell your kid they're loved every day. Number 8, lawn care, yard work service. Mowing, hedge trimming, snow shoveling, depending on the region. Startup costs about $1,000 with used equipment. Number 9, this was a great business. I know a person who did like $27,000 a month on this business. Mobile notary service. With remote work and legal paperwork still requiring signatures, notaries are in demand. Startup costs, I just used a notary 2 weeks ago, by the way. Startup costs $200 to $300 for certification and supplies. This is a great business, by the way, notaries. Number 10, personal fitness and wellness coaches. My wife is a wellness expert, by the way, Shatra. This is a hybrid model. So AI can give exercise plans, but it can't motivate people like human coaches, right? I get a lot of knowledge from AI, but my wife is the absolute expert that I trust because I know she cares about me and she's able to communicate in a way that I can hear and listen. Once again, AI is not going to replace you. Somebody who's using AI and technology will. AI can give AI-generated custom plans as a bonus for clients. Startup costs, which is certifications, which are really optional, and mostly marketing. So some of these ideas lean into the AI future. Some are immune to AI. Either way, you can start these with less than $1,000 and build something sustainable. The key isn't just choosing the idea, it's taking the first step today. This is John Hope Bryant. This is Money and Wealth. This has been How Do You Build a Business? Just start. PhDs are good. PhDs are better. This is a civil rights movement, from civil rights to civil rights, from civil rights to civil rights, from the streets to the suites, from protesting to partnering. I'll see you at the finish line. I'm so inspired by this time and your place in it. Let's go. John O'Brien, I'm out. Tell your friends about this podcast. Subscribe today.